Welcome to the Tax Relief with Timalyn Bowens podcast. Are you behind on taxes? Is the IRS threatening you or your business? Are you overwhelmed and confused about how to resolve your tax issues? Let's join Timbaland as she explains your options and how she may be able to help. Timalyn Bowens is America's favorite EA. Well, here we are with episode 1 of the podcast. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and giving us a listen today. Today, we're going to talk really about how Timbaland got her start, kind of who she is, what she does, and how she can help you. So with that being said, Timbaland, welcome to the studio. Here we go. Congratulations on the launch of your new podcast.
Thank you, Jim. I am so excited to get this information out to taxpayers.
Well, I tell you, we've been working on this for quite a while now, get everything prepped up and ready to go. So today's the launch. So here we go. Let's kind of introduce the audience to you. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Those kind of things.
Absolutely. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Timalyn Bowens, and I'm America's favorite EA. I'm going to get a little into that later, but I'm originally from Evansville, Indiana. I moved to Louisville, Kentucky almost 14 years ago. I went to Bellarmine University.
Go Knights.
Go Knights, which if you're from this area, you know that is the #1 school for accounting. I knew from the time that I was probably middle school that I wanted to be an accountant. Now, of course, I had my own perception of what an accountant was and what they did, which is completely different from what I do today. But in looking for schools, I wanted to be the best. So I went with Bellarmine. I knew from a young age, a lot of people don't know, my dad's a pastor, and he didn't found the church, but I tell people he inherited the church because there were probably as many members as our 5-member family.
Wow.
Less than 10 people when we got there. So yeah, from the ground up. And, you know, as you're a child, you think certain people are your friend. There was a gentleman and his wife that came to our church, and his name was Deacon Johnson. So Deacon Johnson every Sunday would take me with him to count the offering, different things like that. So, you know, I'm thinking we're best friends. But now being an adult and a parent, I'm like, oh, he was helping my parents out. Different people were splitting me and my brothers up so my parents could do what they needed to do.
That's so funny.
But each Sunday, I was very fond of what he did because not only did we keep track of how much was being brought in for offering, we also kept track of attendance. And I'm a person, even as a child, don't waste my time. So I wanted to know the why. Why are we doing this? And, you know, I may have been maybe 7 years old. And he told me, if we mess this up, we don't know how much money's coming in, your dad won't have a church to preach in. And I promise you from that moment, I was like, money is important. Tracking money is so important. So I had the little, because, you know, when you're a child, you change careers several times. I had the little notebook that I thought detectives used, but I would track my money when I would get paid for different things and that. And it was just always a part of my nature from that point.
And it just clicked. There was something about accounting that just clicked.
Absolutely.
And so you come to Bellarmine, you're an accounting major at this point. And was it at that point what you thought it was going to be?
So Accounting 101, I went in because I took an accounting course in high school. I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's so easy. That second class hit and it was like, boom, reality hit. Like, it's a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I yet enjoyed it in the process, but even at that time as a freshman, before getting to college, I never would have thought that I would be doing taxes.
That's amazing because taxes is almost a subspecialty of accounting to begin with, right? I mean, there's a lot more you can do in the field of accounting.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. It's funny because a lot of people think, oh, you do accounting, you do taxes. That's not how that works at all. It's definitely a specialized area. But what I tell people is that within the business school, they kind of look at accountants or accounting majors like, you guys are nerds. But then within the accounting major, we kind of look at the tax people like, oh, you guys are nerds. So, super nerds.
Wow.
Bellarmine has an amazing mentorship, internship program. So I had the opportunity my junior year of college to take the full spring semester off and do an internship full time. So I got my exposure to the 70, 80-hour weeks. And my internship was with a big CPA firm, and all I did was taxes. And Jim, it was a love-hate thing because I didn't want to tell anybody I love taxes.
But again, it just clicked. And sometimes when you find that right, whatever it is that just triggers your passion, you got to run with it. And you did.
You've got to. And I tell people, it's not for the faint of heart, especially not the past 2 tax seasons we've had with all the different COVID relief options for people, which it was good for taxpayers, stressful for accountants. But I love taxes. I love tax law because it tells somebody's financial story. Like, you get to know people so well from how they spend their money. So while I was there, I did taxes. And when I left the first year of that internship, because I was with them more than one season, I said, I want to do taxes. I love tax planning. But there were 2 things that happened during my internship. I was like, I have to do more. The first thing, and I'll say the first, I can't exactly remember which order it happened in. They were the same tax season. So Jim, I don't know about you, but I don't always like to eat healthy at lunchtime. So me, and I call her my twin turn, Katie, every day we would pack our lunch for our internship.
Sure.
Every day. And every day at about 9, I would wait for her to send me a little jabber saying, hey, you want to go pick up lunch? Where do you want to get lunch? So this particular day, I was just waiting. Had my lunch in the fridge, didn't want to eat it. So she sends me the jabber. I'm like, awesome, I'm going out to eat. We decided to be kind of healthy-ish and go to a Kroger grocery store. And as we're going through the lot, there's a lady there crying. I was not going to be the Good Samaritan that day. I was going to go get my lunch, eat, and get back. And my twin turn stopped to see what was up with the lady. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm hungry. It's tax season. We didn't wear uniforms. We had badges. I think mine was tucked in my pocket, hopefully. I was infamous for losing mine. Sorry, IT department. But this lady had a tax problem. She's crying, and I don't remember if it was $500 or $1,500, but I remember sitting in that parking lot with my twin turn and thinking, all you have to do is, that's not a lot of money. All you have to do is, and so we told her like what she could do. Get our lunch. As we're headed back up the elevator, I'm like, would my brother know what to do if he owed that much money? Would my cousin know what to do? Would my aunt know what to do? And I felt convicted going up the elevator because I was like, people just don't know. Later, I had lunch with, again, not eating my packed lunch. I had lunch with my mentor, and he was asking me how I liked it and everything. I was like, oh, yeah, it's great. And of course, I'm real green. Like, yeah, it's good. And he said, you're good at it, but I don't think you're going to be a good fit because you like to help people. And I was like, well, first of all, I have these things called student loans. So it has to be a good fit.
You're going to have to figure it out.
It has to be a good fit. But when I thought about those 2 experiences together, I was like, I do like the tax law because it's like a puzzle. I'm helping people, but there is more. So I began to study different licenses and look at things because I knew for me, I didn't want to take the CPA exam because only about 1/8 of that exam covers taxes, which a lot of people don't know. A very small percentage of CPAs even do taxes. So I was like, why am I going to spend money on this exam that doesn't cover what I want to specialize in? I want to be able to help people like the lady in the parking lot. So I've found, a lot of people don't know this license exists, is the enrolled agent license. So remember, I'm America's favorite enrolled agent. But as an EA, I'm licensed through the Internal Revenue Service. I can do tax preparation. I can do the planning, advising. But the part that I love is the representation piece. Did you know only 3 professionals can represent taxpayers before the IRS?
I had no idea. I thought any CPA could do that.
Well, a CPA can, they're authorized to, but you have to be a CPA, which is certified public accountant, like you mentioned, an enrolled agent, or a tax attorney. But as an enrolled agent, I'm licensed and can represent in all 50 states. A CPA is only licensed by their state. And then a tax attorney, I tell people, yes, they can represent you before the IRS, but depending on their specialty, they usually are looking at civil matters. So once it becomes a legal issue, I can't do anything to help you in that court of law, but a tax attorney can. So that's why I studied for that exam to become an EA, because now I step in my client's shoes and represent the IRS for them.
And I think that throws a lot of people because you're an enrolled agent, but you're not an employee of the IRS. You're actually working for the consumer, for the taxpayer, representing them in front of matters related to the IRS.
Correct. So I'm not employed by the IRS. Let me give that disclaimer. Thank you. Yes, but I had to take tests that to say that I'm fit to do so, and get the fingerprint and all that stuff done. So clients come to me when they owe and can't pay in full. I negotiate that tax debt for them. They come to me if they're facing an audit. So I've helped clients that owe anywhere from $10,000 to over $300,000, and I love doing that. That is the main part as an enrolled agent that I love, is representing the taxpayers, so they never have to talk to the IRS again. I get your love letters when you work with me.
And those are the nasty grams from the IRS.
Yeah, the nasty grams,
That's
not the true love letters.
Only from your clients.
Yes. Only
Happy
from my
clients. No, that makes sense. So again, an EA is not a CPA, and a CPA is not an EA. So there are some differences in terms of, you might think of it as jurisdiction. Are there some other differences specific to an enrolled agent and that license?
Yeah, absolutely. So the test that I took only covers tax matters. So I took a test that focuses on individuals. It focuses on S corps, corporations, partnerships. But then 1/3 of the test specializes specifically on representation and making sure that I'm doing that right, ethically. Because we have a lot of what I like to call ghost tax professionals now. They quote unquote help you, then they disappear. They're nowhere to be found. Whereas a CPA, they're authorized by the IRS to do the same. But if we're looking at the test, there's this 4 parts. And like I said, it's through the state. So they're only licensed by their state. But they also handle other functions. So your traditional accounting, like bookkeeping, CFO services, they handle things, again, more specialized to the state level. Whereas mine, because it's federal, there's the difference. Now, of course, because I went to Bellarmine University, I can prepare financials. I can't sign off on them if you need to have a CPA audit.
That makes a lot of sense. But again, you are really a specialist in the area of tax representation. And so if I haven't filed taxes, or I forgot to file something, or suddenly I have back taxes or other penalties and interest, I can approach you, again, from anywhere in the country and say, hey, Timalyn, can you please help me with this? And that's very easy for someone to do.
Absolutely. That is exactly why you would want to call me. I tell people I'm a good person to know, not a good person to need.
That makes a lot of sense. What would be the easiest route for someone to get in contact with you? If they're hearing this podcast or listening to this podcast for the first time, where should they go to find information on you?
Yeah, so you can go to www.bowens, so it's my last name, BOWENS, taxsolutions.com. Make sure you add the S on Tax Solutions, because we have more than one solution for you. But by going to that site, you can find out more information about myself, but also you can go directly to the Book Now link, and you can get a time that you will have me one-on-one to talk about your tax situation and how I could potentially help you.
And then a lot of the times, once you get that initial information, you're able to get in contact with the IRS, get a download of what the particular issues are, and maybe actually uncover other information the consumer is not even aware of, like another missing return further back, and really kind of get a view of the entire picture, so that when you begin working on that file, on that case, on working for that client, you really are doing a comprehensive review and representation.
Yes, so I tell people it works in 3 phases. We do the investigation, like you mentioned, and it's always, it breaks my heart to have to tell somebody that thought they owed 15,000, you actually owe 80,000 because we have other taxes missing and things that haven't been addressed. So we typically do an investigation of 10 years back. Then we come back to the taxpayer to help them get into compliance with the IRS, so then we can negotiate. Because the IRS doesn't want to hear from you if you aren't at least in compliance.
Right. And that may be, okay, we need to get these returns in. We need to kind of come up to speed. We need to get up to date and then let the negotiations go back and forth. So there's some penalties, there's some interest, there's some other things that you might be able to negotiate down rather than saying, oh my gosh, you've got this huge debt that you have to pay now. There's a way to minimize that, or at least attempt to.
Yes, there is a way to attempt to minimize that. I tell people the pray and wait strategy does not help at all. We need to get in there, figure out what we have to do, and make an action plan.
That makes a lot of sense. So again, what we've kind of talked about today is really from a young age, you kind of knew accounting was where you wanted to go. And as you got into your internships, you started to realize, wait a minute, I really like tax. There's something about tax that really drew you in. And here you are now as America's favorite enrolled agent, servicing clients all across the United States. You got a very successful practice. It's a pleasure to know you. I'm so excited that you've gotten episode 1 off the ground. And I guess our plan here is to, about every 2 weeks, we're going to release a new podcast episode. And they'll vary in length, they'll vary in topics, but we'll be able to have those all over the place. So you have a Facebook page. You've got all sorts of social media out there. Very active on social media, by the way. Congratulations on doing that. And so we'll post these all over the place so people can find them, but also the typical podcast networks and platforms such as Apple Podcast and Google Podcast and Spotify and places like that. They'll be able to find it as well. So how do you feel with the first episode kind of being wrapped up and kind of in the can? What do you think?
I feel great. I'm excited. I'm really passionate about educating taxpayers. So I believe if I'm trying to fill the tax literacy gap, one taxpayer at a time, and this is going to be one way that I can do it.
Outstanding. Congratulations again, and we'll talk to you about 2 weeks from now. Take care.
I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen today. I'd like to thank Jim Ray Consulting Services for helping me get this message out to you. I hope you found the information helpful. Did you know 1 in 50 people have a tax problem? Please share this episode with your friends and family because you never know who may need help. Again, thanks for listening. Hey, just as a reminder, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It provides a framework and possible solutions for solving your tax problems, but it is not legally binding. Please consult your tax professional regarding your specific tax situation.